In investing, Phil Town says, "The people running the company matter almost as much as the company itself." He borrows a favorite venture capital line: "When you can't judge the business, you bet on the jockey." In other words, the CEO, the leader who steers strategy, culture, and capital, is a make-or-break factor for whether you sleep well at night as an owner. Even a wide moat can be badly misused by bad managers. A strong moat helps, but a great CEO is the person who turns a good business into a great long-term investment. Conversely, a CEO who puts short-term gains or personal enrichment ahead of owners can destroy value fast. So the third M in rule number 1, management, is all about finding leaders you can trust, admire, and want to marry to your money. Phil highlights 2 traits you should look for. 1. Owner-oriented. A CEO who thinks and acts like an owner aligns his or her interests with yours. That means sensible pay, meaningful stock ownership, and decisions that favor long-term value rather than boosting a near-term share price. Phil points to people like Warren Buffett or Bill Gates, who structure compensation and ownership to show they're playing for the long haul. 2. Driven. Great CEOs are fired up about a big audacious goal, a bag, that gives the company direction and energy. Examples: Darwin Smith's mission to remake Kimberly-Clark into the top paper products company, or Steve Jobs' drive to make computers and devices cool. A real bag motivates employees and focuses capital in ways that often produce superior long-term returns. Phil gives practical, repeatable checks you can do. Read the CEO's shareholder letters. The best letters admit mistakes, explain what went wrong, and tell owners how management will fix things. If the CEO only spins rosy language when numbers are bad, that's a red flag. Google the CEO. Read profiles and reporting in places like Fortune, Forbes, Businessweek. The press often surfaces clues about character, priorities, and leadership style. Inspect insider trading. Look at whether executives are consistently selling large amounts of stock. Selling by insiders can be innocent, funding charitable giving, taxes, or diversification, but mass sell-offs by a leadership team are a warning sign. Conversely, meaningful insider buying can indicate confidence in the business. Review compensation. Is pay structured to reward long-term ownership or short-term stock swings? Large option grants that allow easy, risk-free windfalls can create perverse incentives. Phil prefers CEOs who take modest pay and own substantial stock, people who will suffer if the business suffers. Phil calls out several real-world cautionary tales where CEO rhetoric and compensation didn't match results. Companies whose owners suffered while executives collected huge paydays. Examples he examines include Ciena. Executives took tens of millions while shareholders lost huge value, and CEO letters failed to acknowledge big losses. Sanmina SCI, flowery shareholder language while ROIC and growth were poor. Albertsons and Bristol-Myers Squibb. Examples where executive hype and big paychecks didn't square with flat or falling results. He also contrasts this with better behavior. Scott McNeely at Sun admitted mistakes and laid out corrective steps, and John Mackey at Whole Foods is praised for candid letters describing challenges and how they plan to address them. Those are the kind of leaders rule number 1 investors want. Phil warns about boards that rubber stamp excessive pay or grant protection packages, poison pills, or golden parachutes that shield mercenary CEOs and make it hard for owners to hold bad leaders accountable. When the board is aligned with owners and compensation is reasonable, you're in a much better place. Advanced investors will dig into the notes of the annual report to see how options are structured and whether the company expensed options properly. If options are handed out liberally and not counted as an expense, that's dilution masked as profit. This is more advanced but worth noting. The structure of option grants reveals whether management is thinking like owners or speculators. A business's annual report is required to disclose options deals to owners. Look in the index to the financial statements under the heading Notes to the Consolidated Financial Statements. Simply scroll down to near the end of the notes and you'll find a section called Stock Options. That's where you can read about how a business structures its options. At a basic level, check to see if the business structures a logical and appropriate strike price, the fixed price at which a company official who owns options can buy the stock during a set period. It should reflect success for owners. And, second, see if the company enforces a ban on the CEO quickly disposing of any shares purchased through options, thereby helping to ensure that the CEO sees the world as a long-term owner. Your goal in conducting this type of analysis is to filter out any business being run by a bunch of mercenaries who are in it for the quick buck. Before you buy a company, ask yourself, would I be proud to be a co-owner with this CEO? Does the CEO talk like an owner, admit mistakes, and lay out a real plan? Does the CEO have a clear bag that's believable and motivating? Are insiders buying or selling in a way that makes sense? Is compensation aligned with long-term owner returns? If the answer is no, don't buy. Sit on cash and wait for a company where you can confidently say yes. Management is not glamorous homework, but it's essential. The best numbers in the world can be squandered by bad leaders. Conversely, great leaders can extract value from very tough circumstances. Phil's mantra here is simple: bet on the jockey. Pick leaders you trust, who are owner-oriented and driven, and then, once you're convinced, move on to the final test. Buy the business with a margin of safety.